Merry Meet YouTubers, this is Lady Grave Dancer, and I am Sunday's host here on Witches of the Moon. And this week's topic was any advice for new witches, people new into the craft, into the practice. I'm a little sweaty because we just came from the playground. I have my brother and my niece and nephew in town, and I only get to see them like twice a year, if that, so we've been really busy. Yeah, let's get started. I would have to say, I mean, I'm sure that this week I haven't been on YouTube hardly at all since I posted my videos last week on my channel. I think I haven't seen a single video, but I'm sure that all week you've been given amazing advice from the witches on this channel. The advice that I would have to give, which I kind of did it in my video copy and paste witches, is to always do what feels right to you. Now if you're already drawn and having questions, my door is being pushed open. If you're already having questions about the path, then that's one sign for you right there. I know I come across people who ask, you know, what is the sign? Well, being drawn to it is one of the signs. Okay, sorry. My house is full of people right now, so I'm trying to do this video in the bedroom. That's your first sign right there. Boom. Another thing, it's great to have... Lock the door so I can do this, sorry. It's great to have a mentor, somebody that you look up to, and you know, advice. I mean, that's why we do videos on here, just kind of give advice and show things here and there. You know, you got your herbal witches, you got your witches who do mostly, you know, like tarot readings. You got your ones that are into oils and into candles. You got some that are into everything. My advice would be is just to be your own witch. Don't think that you have to learn everything. If you don't want to learn how to read tarot cards, or it's not something that interests you, or you know, it's just not your cup of tea, then don't read tarot cards. Being a witch has nothing to do with you reading tarot cards or anything like that. If you don't have to make your own candles, you don't have to make your own incense. You could put your magical abilities into things that are already made. I mean, yeah, those things are awesome to do. I enjoy making my own stuff. But at first, the first 10-15 years of you know, the practice, I didn't make any of that stuff. You know, my grandparents did and great-grandparents did and all them, but not me. I didn't have time, so I didn't. So I mean, I find a lot of people asking those questions like, how do I make this, how do I make that? And there's lots of books, which I got a ton of books right here on the floor. I'm gonna pull them all up here because it just takes too long to get through the video. But I know I come across, I say I'm not a book witch. When I say that I'm not a book witch, it's because I don't do things to the book. Reading is really, really, I think, a big part of learning, and that's with not just with the path, that's with life in general. You know, learning, reading goes hand in hand. I just don't do things to the book. I'm just not that type of person. Never have been, never will be. People ask me about the pagan path and being a witch. Now, this is something that I've come across. Being pagan doesn't mean that you're a witch. Practicing witchcraft is what makes you a witch. Practicing the craft, that is what makes you a witch. You can follow all the steps and follow your goddesses, your deities. You can do the honoring of the earth, all that. Be pagan and proud, and you don't have to be considered a witch until you go into practicing witchcraft. And you don't have to do that. I have friends who are pagan, but they don't practice. But they do all their honorings and do what they do with their deities and everything else. And that's fine. You know, if you're not ready to be a witch, then don't. Another thing that I've come up, questions that have been asked is about all the tools. The only real tool that you need is right here. That's it. You don't need anything else. Anything that you would need to practice, you can get it from Earth. You know, it's all this stuff that we have that's all around us. They weren't always there. Witches have always been there, but this stuff wasn't always there, and practicing went on just fine. So don't rush into worrying about, oh, I gotta buy this, I can't practice because I don't have this, or you know, I need to do this kind of magic but I don't have this certain item. You don't have to have all the tools to practice. You know, you got your mind and you got whatever Mother Earth gives you that's out there to use. I know people have put off certain parts of their path because they don't have certain items to work with, and that's just not, it doesn't have to be that way. So if you don't have certain tools that you want, don't let it prevent you from going forward into your path. Eventually you'll get them, and then it'll be great. And I mean, because tools are fun. It is. I enjoy having all my tools, but in reality a lot of them don't get used. So, you know, well, they'll probably get used on occasion, but not as often as you might think. So tools are not a necessity. They're an option, and they're great to have, but you don't have to have them to practice. And then I've had questions about opening and closing circles and stuff like that. I don't personally open and close a circle whenever I am doing stuff all the time. I know people who will open a circle to go flush a toilet. I just don't see it as necessary, but that's just me, and I've been doing this a lot longer than a lot of newer witches coming in, and you know, I know how to shield myself and guard myself and cleanse the area and do those things. So if you're new into it, I do recommend you opening and closing a circle. It doesn't have to be all fancy pantsy like you see on TV or that you read in the books. You can open your circle just as big as what is around you mentally. Bring your bubble around you, open your circle. You can call on the elements to open your circle. You know, if you're doing a ritual and you're making a big circle, you definitely want to call on the elements too. As far as me, I don't do it, but I do recommend that the newer people try to at least put a circle around themselves when they're practicing, just until you learn how to protect yourself, because I've had to help many people to get rid of stuff, and not just like spirits and stuff, but like negative energy and stuff that has come through. So I do think that that is important, and I do recommend that to any newer witches that come to me, even though that's not something that I practice. But again, I've been doing it a little longer just for safety purposes. It's just like when you first start running a bike, you put training wheels on it to make sure that you're safe, and then you take them off. It's the same concept. It really is. And then this is a big one that I get asked on a pretty regular basis, is about the god and goddesses. How do I know which goddess is for me? How do I know which god is for me? My true opinion is when you're looking them up and you're reading on them, one will come out to you. For me, Hecate was shown to me by someone. She popped out to someone who she knew I was going to listen to, and then I started reading onto her, and then when I called on her, she came. I don't have a particular god that I work with. On my altar, there's a masculine side, and I work with the masculine itself. I don't feel the need to have a certain male deity name, present, statue, or anything like that. And that's just me. And I don't think that you should rush and worry, oh, I can't practice until I find the deities that I'm going to work with. That's not true. You know, honor the male and female on your altar, and you know there's god and goddesses, so then you just move from there. And in time, you know, someone, it might take them a day to find who they're working with. Some of them might take years to figure out who's the right one for them. And some people work with several all the time, and that's okay too. Some people might disagree with me, but that's something that I've learned from the fellowship. They every month they do a different deity, and we work with that deity every month and get to know the deity. And I've known people who's been up at the fellowship who will be there through a deity, and that ends up being their god or their goddess that they work with forever, if that's what they want. You know, it's okay to honor as many of them as possible, and it's I don't want to say it's not a big deal, because it's really awesome when you find your god or goddess, because I couldn't see, you know, doing much of anything without Hecate. So, you know, I totally get wanting to find it, but just don't rush it, because you don't want to get mixed up in something that's not what it is. I hope that made sense. It made sense up here, but when it comes out this way, it might be poo-poo. I don't know. Okay, and I know a lot of witches might disagree with me here, but when you're new to the craft, they'll say take your time, don't do any spells right now, and I totally agree to a point. Don't go and start doing big time spells for you know, like you want to win the lottery or you know, something like that. You don't want to jump into that when you're new, but just like anything, you got to practice to get it right. So I do recommend small spells for beginners, and that's why I also recommend the circle for protection. Practicing opening and closing a circle is important. Practicing small spells, maybe something as small as, you know, rekindle some love into your home life spells, or a cold and flu spell, you know, a protection spell for around your house, you know, baby steps spells. But I do think that spell work is important as a newbie, because practicing makes it perfect. You know, you got to practice in order to learn anything. I'm a hands-on kind of a person, and newbies do need to realize that, I hate that word newbie, but for some reason it's falling out, that your spells are not always going to work. They're not always going to work in the beginning. You're new to it, and until you learn how to work those energies and all that good stuff, some of your stuff isn't going to work. Don't get discouraged. Practice, practice, practice. Don't try to go in there and be a big shot when you're just starting and say, oh, I'm going to put a binding spell on this bee that I hate at work. No, don't do that. I don't recommend that at all. You know, do baby step stuff that is, you know, like I said, like love, protection, those kind of things that will be small but beneficial for you into your home. That I think practicing is very important, though. And another thing I always tell newer witches is to watch for signs. So many people that I know who are coming into the craft, and me and myself is guilty of it even sometimes to the day, where I will ignore a sign. Something will happen and I'll be like, oh, that's a coincidence. Try to always focus on the signs that are around you, because a particular deity might be sending you a sign, a particular spirit might be sending you a sign, and you always want to watch for your signs, because, you know, if it pops, how will I know it's a sign, right? Okay, if it pops into your mind, if I see a sign that has a big giant letter B on it, and if that B makes me think, when normally I would drive by that sign and not even think about the B, but if that particular moment that B makes me think, then I need to take in consideration that that might be a sign for something. And if you start to think about it, it's hard to explain. There's so much noise outside my door. If you pay attention to it, something else will pop in your head, and don't dismiss it so quickly. Go with it, try to figure it out, and see if it's a sign. It can be a very simple sign, you know, but if it caught your eye, then more than likely it's a sign, and that's just the way it works for me anyway. So always go with your gut. Like I was saying in the beginning, always go, if you are, like I said, it's okay to have a mentor, that's great. You know, if you're part of a coven, that's awesome. But if you are even having the slightest bit of doubt of the people, witches that you're associating with, go with your gut on that, because then there's probably something not right. Or, well, I don't want to say not right, it's probably just not for you. Their particular practice isn't for you. That's a better way of putting it. And always go with your gut. Don't be one of those copy and paste witches where you're working with somebody and they want you to be at their beck and call. They're not kings and queens, okay? We're all the same. That's not the way it works. A high priestess is not going to want you to bow down to them and give them all this attention. A high priestess isn't like that. Most of the time, unless you're part of a coven, you won't even know someone is a high priestess, because they don't have to advertise. And that's the truth. Don't be a copy and paste witch, and go with your gut. That is my biggest advice for new witches, is go with your gut. If you watch one of my videos and I'm doing something and you're like, that just don't look right, don't do it. If you're watching, who's a big person here on YouTube that pagans and Wiccans watch? Anyways, anybody, if you're watching a video, no matter if they have 1 million views on this video, okay, and people are like, oh, praising them the whole time, but you're watching this video and it's like, that just doesn't seem right, then go with that. Just because 1 million other people like it doesn't mean it's for you. Do what feels right to you, and then you won't go wrong with that. And always remember, I always say this, if you come across somebody who says they know everything, they're done learning, you need to run. The world is forever changing, and so is this practice. I mean, we got the old school witches who don't like that fact, but that is the fact. The world is changing, and so are the people in it, and so is the practice. So we're going to be forever, ever learning because of the changes, and accept change would be the advice I would give you, and never stop learning. Continue to learn. You know, I have met people who had just came into the craft, just started practicing, and they'll start talking, and I'll learn something from their words. Just because someone is young, old, you know, new, whatever, you will learn something from people, and just remember that. Never stop learning, and accept change because it happens, and you'll continue to grow on the path, and it'll be amazing, and you will enjoy it. So that's pretty much all that I could say about this video. I hope this is what you were looking for. It's top of my head. I wrote a few questions down that is asked to me pretty regular, and I wanted to answer them and just give that basic advice. Go with your gut and never stop learning, and you won't be led wrong. Alright guys, I got tons of people out there. I gotta go. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys at the next one, and have a great week. Blessed be, guys. Bye.